Let's see here. Phys and histo again. Okay. I don't know if this is after the exam I took or what. Well, let's find out. No. Oh, these are reviews. Okay, yeah. We're gonna go ahead and skip over that. I already took that exam. I'm probably gonna skip over the nutrition as well because I already took that exam too. But I mean, I don't know. A lot of that would be helpful to you guys, I think. So, yeah, canine performance. This is if you've got like performance animals, dogs, performance dogs. So the goal with this is to optimize energy, support muscle repair and recovery, maintain hydration, and reduce oxidative stress. Because these animals are going to be working very hard. These are performance dogs. Okay, like whippets or greyhounds, I think is another name for those. I could be wrong. Different types of muscle fibers, sheep dogs, herding dogs. You know, you got to make sure they get enough energy, protein, fat. Something interesting that my professor seemed to talk about is that fat becomes the primary fuel when performance is the goal. So, to me, that sounds like if you want to perform the best, if you want to be the healthiest at the top of your game, then you need to be getting your fuel from fat instead of carbohydrates. Well, I could be, misinterpreting what she said, but I'm pretty sure that's what she said. Now, yeah, okay, foods. Yeah, there's different kinds of foods formulated differently. How's it going? Sport, work, sprint, and exercise feeds. There's all sorts of different kinds for these performance dogs. Some raw meat diets are even fed to performance dogs, and it's no surprise why. Meat is very nutrient dense. Um, doesn't contain a lot of filler. And the thing about raw bones with animal or dogs in specific, that's different than cooked bones, is that they're less likely to break that raw bone, from my understanding, and swallow it, chew and swallow. The thing about cooked bone is they can do that. They can chew and swallow that bone, and then they can possibly get an intestinal obstruction, which is not something you want. That's where surgery comes in. You're taking your dog to the vet. Uh, I've seen at least one case of that, and I'm pretty sure that dog was euthanized because it just couldn't poop, and when you can't pass stool because of an obstruction, imagine the pain that's causing the dog. That intestinal obstruction, everything's pushing against it. How much pressure that is, that's got to be horrible. So just be very careful when giving bones to your pets. If it's like, it's different if it's not a real bone. If it's rawhide bone, I mean, those are high in calories because I mean, from what I understand, they're literally hide or they're just some kind of carbohydrate, I guess. But if you're feeding real bones are okay. They provide stimulation for your dog, chewing, alleviates boredom, that sort of thing. But Just, you don't want them to swallow it. Bones aren't really meant to be swallowed. Okay, cats. I mean, well, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent again. The calcium from the bone, they probably get enough just by chewing on the bone and scraping the bits off, you know. I mean, if it's tiny bits of bone that they're swallowing, it's probably not a big deal. It's just big old chunks. You don't want them to be swallowing big old chunks. Cats, much more carnivorous than dogs. Although, in my opinion, dogs are still carnivores. Hi, everyone. Um, Cats are even more so. Cats have even less capacity for carbohydrate digestion. They also have smaller stomach capacity, so they're eating more meals a day, more frequent, smaller meals, whereas dogs, and us actually, are probably more geared towards eating larger meals and then fasting for a prolonged period of time. Like, personally, I eat one meal a day, and it is usually in the form of a pound of ground turkey and 6 eggs and like a cheese stick. That's what I had this morning. And then I'm okay for the rest of the day, most of the time. Sometimes I get hungry, and then I either just deal with it by fasting even longer, or um, I eat something. I might go to Mazio's and get a salad bar, but I only get the ham and the egg, you know? It's not, I don't eat salad because it's just fiber, really. That's the nutritional content of salad. It's just, I mean, it's plant material, you know? There's, and even the nutrients that are there. Spinach, for example. Spinach is lauded as a um, ingredient that contains a lot of iron, right? Well, it turns out there's actually plant toxins that prohibit the iron from being absorbed by us when we eat it. And there's other, this might be the same plant toxin, but oxalates in spinach are a contributor to kidney stones. So, yeah, crazy stuff. Back to this. Cats, they have trouble. Well, they just have low pancreatic and intestinal amylase. They've got low disaccharidase activity. So they just have less ability to digest these carbohydrates. However, if you heavily process the carb and you cook it, they are much more able to eat that or extract nutrients from it. Now, interestingly, cats don't eat, well, okay, so dogs have more capacity to eat vegetables per se, but cats actually have more intestinal microbes than dogs. They've got 10 to the power of 5 to 10 to the eighth power, whatever unit that is per milliliter, compared to dogs, which is 10 to the fourth power. So they've got 10, 100, 1,000 to 10,000 times as many microbes as dogs. That's crazy. And they, you know, in the wild, they primarily eat just meat and bone. You know, they're eating mice, right? Just eating them whole, I guess, or however they eat them. Cats are predatory, small frequent meals. They prefer solid, moist foods, flavors. They're not really attracted to sugars like dogs can be, and we definitely are. Um, they don't really eat as many plants. Yeah, water. Cats are able to tolerate mild dehydration pretty well, and it makes sense because They're descended from African wild cats, which came from Africa, as you can guess. And well, Africa, from what I learned growing up, is not exactly tropical all over. I mean, they've got the Sahara Desert, that sort of thing. It can be pretty dry down there. But a lot of their water is also gained from the food they eat, fish, that sort of thing. Canned diets can help them intake more water versus a dry diet. In a dry diet, it's actually been found that cats will just end up being dehydrated, but again, they're able to just, you know, survive slash, what did I say? Survive? Survive slash thrive being dehydrated. But if they eat canned food, wet foods, um, most of their water requirements are met. They prefer fresh tap water. Um, okay. They have an increased need for arginine, taurine, cysteine, and methionine, and they cannot live on plant-based diets. Now, yeah, they can't synthesize sufficient arginine, which is required for their urea cycle. It's required for our urea cycle as well. Deficiency of that leads to immediate and severe hyperammonemia. So ammonium, they've got too much ammonium. They're not able to convert it to urea. Okay, they need methionine and cysteine. For hair and skin, and they need it more during growth stages of their lives. And then taurine they need for eye, retinal health, because otherwise they can get retinal degeneration. And also for bile acid conjugation. That's the biggest thing they need taurine for. And there's a couple other things. They need arachidonic acid, and they need eicosapentaenoic acid, which is EPA. Okay. Like I said, they can utilize cooked carbohydrates pretty well, 96% digestibility according to the slide, but not so much raw carbohydrates, which raw carbohydrates are also processed poorly in dogs. So, B vitamins, A. Yep, cats are obligate carnivores. They aren't able to convert tryptophan to niacin. That's good to know. Now, when feeding a cat, there's growth stage as a kitten, there's adult maintenance stage, there's mature adult, which is like 7 to 10 years old, and then there's seniors, which is anything above 10 years. Old cats. Neutering a cat, here's something interesting, decreases their energy need by about 25%. So they lose weight, or they don't lose weight as well, and they also don't need as much energy to gain weight. And so it makes it hard whenever you've got a cat that has been neutered, whether that's being spayed or castrated. It makes it hard for them to lose weight and be at a healthy body weight, healthy body fat percentage. Protein, they've got high protein needs. They've got relatively high fat needs. They require DHA, which is an essential fatty acid. Yep. Yeah. They can become fixated on certain foods. They can develop something called food fixation. Makes them picky. So like if you feed them a certain kind of food, don't be surprised if you try to feed them another kind of food later and they're like, I don't like that. I mean, sometimes you might just have to tell them, this is not medical advice, but this is just my opinion. Sometimes you might just have to tell them deal with it. And if I mean, hey, if they're not eating it, maybe they're just not hungry too. That's something to think of. So just leave the food there until they're hungry, and then they'll eat it. Hopefully, I mean, otherwise they just starve. Bummer, right? Yep, water, energy, protein, fat, fiber. Good to know. Phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, taurine. There's no published guidelines for a mature slash senior diet for cats, but your goal is to just manage risk factors. This is the age when they develop all these problems like kidney disease, um, that sort of thing. So just be careful what you feed them. My opinion is feed them food that's free of toxins. I mean, most toxins are what's causing all these things, kidney disease, all that. Yep. And then when they gestate and when they lactate, they're going to need more energy. That's pretty common sense, I think. Well, maybe among veterinarians. Yep, they have a lot of energy requirement just before weaning during lactation. And that's good to know. Okay, that's it for nutrition. Now, anatomy. Let's see here. Yep. Oh, where is it? I don't think it's in here anywhere. Give me a second. 9. Nope. 9. 5. Nope, that's not in there either. 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope. Okay, that's strange. Yeah, this is just mostly thoracic limb anyway, which I've already taken the exam over, and trust me, it's exhaustive if I were to go over this again. So, I'm just going to stop here. Thanks for watching. I got 3 more of these to do today, so I'll see you in the next one, hopefully.